this is a true story that happened in my town. So this one Wednesday is like a normal day for the whole school. But today was different. Every other class had all their kids. But Mrs. Gandy's room was totally empty. And you know why? Because the night before, at 2:17 in the morning, every kid woke up, got out of bed, walked downstairs, and into the dark. And they never came back.
I don't understand at all. Why just her classroom? Why only hers?
Where are our children?
We have a lot of emotional parents here. I think it's best if you keep some distance from this place.
Matthew, where are you? Where did you go?
This is where the story really starts.
Hey there, and welcome back to Dave's Movie Diary. Yeah, Weapons, a film that came out last year to a fair bit of groundswell support and attention. I tried to watch it about 6 months ago, and it didn't really work for me. I only got around 30 minutes in. The film split up into segments. I think I only got through to the end of the first segment. And for some reason, I just thought, this isn't for me. So I turned off. And I'd given up. For some reason, I just found myself gravitating back to this film on HBO Max the other day. And I thought, yep, let's give it a try. So this is what I thought. It's directed by a guy called Zach Cregger, who previously made the film Barbarian, which I think came out 3 or 4 years ago now. I saw that film last year or the year before, and it was quite good. From memory, I think I quite enjoyed the first 2/3 of that film, about an Airbnb deal gone hideously wrong. And then I think it lost me towards the end a little bit. So yeah, Cregger seems to be an up and comer in the horror genre, and what's pretty clear to me now from seeing 2 of his films is that he clearly understands how to construct tension, and has a lot of confidence in building these films, and really seems to know how to escalate situations and shift the perspective. He really likes doing that, especially in this film with the segments, and seems to structure the horror in a way that tries to keep you off balance. And this one, it really works with the time shifting element, backtracking and seeing things through different characters' eyes. So on a technical level, I think it's a really well put together film. What's the story about? It's really about all these kids from the same class that all disappear at 2:17 a.m. one morning, except for one child. One child doesn't disappear, and it's this character that plays a central part of the story. His story is really he's one of the 4. I think it's 4 characters. He's one of the 4 characters that Cregger explores, and we're looking at the story from the viewpoint of the teacher of the class, who initially cops a lot of flack and is a suspect. in what happens. One of the parents, we're looking at it through his eyes, and the child is another one. Oh, there's also a cop too, a cop who has a relationship with the teacher. So they're the various viewpoints that we're seeing it through. There's some other key characters as well, including I can't remember the character's name, but he is an ice addict living in the bush there. He comes into the story for some key parts as well. So yeah, that's the way the film's structured and what it's basically about. I did like how it's broken out into different character perspectives. Like I said, instead of staying with one thread, it keeps widening out, almost like you're slowly kind of assembling a larger picture of what's going on and solving pieces of the puzzle. And for me, once the film got past the initial setup, past that first segment that stopped me the first time round, it really started to open up and become more interesting. The Josh Brolin section, he's playing the father of one of the disappeared kids. His part in his section in particular was a turning point for me, where the story really picked up some momentum, and I stuck with it from that point on. Julia Garner, she plays the teacher, and she's always a positive for me. I still probably can't fully separate her from Ozark, where she was so good as playing that Ruth character. And I've seen her in 2 or 3 things since, which haven't been as good overall, but she's always been good. She's just one of those actors who's instantly watchable no matter what she's in. She brings a real sort of down-home, earthy quality, which I always like. And she's a really talented actress. There's a scene in this film early on in the liquor store. It's a great example of it, where she gets attacked by the on-again, off-again girlfriend of the cop that she spent the night before with. And that scene instantly sets a tone of unpredictability and danger. And her reactions throughout just seem on point to me, and she's really consistently strong. Josh Brolin, like I said, his section really was the factor that kept the momentum going for me and made me stay with this film. And I think he brought a lot of integrity to this film for me. I've been a big fan of his since the get-go, especially in films like No Country for Old Men, where he was just brilliant. And he's had such a good career, but I feel like he could have even been talked about in a better way and had a more impressive career. I feel like there are certain roles that he could have maybe attained, but was overlooked. He always brings that kind of rock solid, hard guy, been around the block. You just look at his face. He has that lived in look, and he's perfect for this role. And I think the perspective shift gives the film more weight and direction, and becomes more engaging once his character's fully in play. And also the change in his character too is really interesting and is handled well. So it's a good performance by him. Straight off, the fact that this film revolves around children gave it really strong Stephen King vibes for me, which is always a good thing, because obviously I'm from that generation in the 70s and 80s where King was the god. It got a lot of people into reading when I was young. I did know so many people at the time who only read Stephen King books. That was their only link to reading. And it's great that Stephen King had that influence on a whole generation of people. And it's great too that he is such an incredible writer. I feel like he was always downgraded because of the genre that he writes in. But especially in the last 20 years or so, you can see in the novels that he's written, he's really branched out beyond that horror genre that he initially was in, and he's shown the full breadth of his talents. But for me, he'll always still just be that horror guy. I can remember reading The Shining when I was, 13 or 14, Salem's Lot, Carrie, and The Stand, those early masterpieces. But they always generally have strong child roles. And you think of The Shining, for example, or Christine, or Pet Sematary, Cujo, Firestarter. They're all, or obviously It. How could I forget It? Children are generally at the center of his stories and the films that are adapted from his stories. And this one's no different. It had that Stephen King vibe to it. It's only like he could have written something like this. And also the small town suburban setting felt very much like Derry or any of the other main settings that he typically has. And, kids being smarter than the adults or being closer to the action and telling the truth about what's happening, and adults not believing them initially or slowly coming to the party later, realizing that something's very wrong. So it all sits very comfortably in that King world, and that probably helped get an older guy like me into this film a bit more. The other thing is, I always find it really unsettling where horror lives in normal suburban environments and not in something that's amped up and unrealistic. And a bit like Halloween, that same suburban everyday environment is always more chilling, I think. There's some really effective horror sequences throughout this film, some good set pieces. Especially found it interesting, the dynamic with the school principal when he shows up at the petrol station. And that whole stretch of the film is pretty full on. Technically, the film looked fantastic. I thought the CGI work in this one was really seamless, in a way that I even stopped noticing it, which is impressive in itself. I've had a lot of, I think, bad experiences with CGI being too over the top, too unbelievable, too unrealistic. And there's some moments, particularly late in this film, where the escalation is genuinely well handled, and quite visually striking. Having said all that, and the impressive things that this film does, I think that this just maybe isn't my type of horror anymore, or at this point. I'm finding increasingly when I watch films like this that when they move deeper into mythology or ritualistic elements, and having to rely on a reason for why things are happening, these more abstract explanations, I start to disconnect a bit. It just doesn't emotionally resonate with me as much. And when they become less about sort of human behavior or relatable human elements and more about this constructed symbolic aspect, that's where I drift a bit. And I don't really get the full effect with horror films, which is to feel, anxiety at least, or scared, or the things that you sign up for when you watch a movie like Weapons. I want to really feel creeped out or on the edge of my seat, and I don't get that with a film like this. And part of that's too, having been around for so long now, in my 50s, and seen so many of these. Like, I cut my teeth watching horror films back in my mid to late teens, and I think I saw everything on the block back then, and that was in the prime time, really, of horror. From the late 70s through to the late 80s, when horror was everywhere, and there were so many films of varying quality. But even in bad ones, you could sometimes get quite creepy moments, and then things kind of went off the boil a bit until Scream came along in '96 and rejigged things. But ever since then, I feel like there was, for a while there anyway, there was this sense of irony in these films. They were sort of very knowing and not making fun of the horror genre, but coming at it from a different angle, whereas the original ones, and we're getting back to it now, are really reaching and trying to find horror and trying to find ideas and filmmaking techniques to make the audience really connect and be on the edge of their seat. And like I said, I'm just finding with films like this where it has to be constructed with these elements of where the horror's coming from, instead of just everyday creepy situations like Halloween does so well, that they're just not hitting as hard with me. So I think I really consistently respond a lot more strongly to horror where human behavior is the source of the fear, rather than some evil force being the source of it. There are exceptions. I mean, Hereditary sort of comes from a mythology as well. But there's times in that film where I genuinely felt creeped out and on the edge of my seat. But I think that was for slightly different reasons. And it is really at the zenith of its game, that film. That's a film I'd like to rewatch again soon. So I think what I'm trying to say is that I'm always more unsettled by things that feel possible, that could happen, and then you start thinking, oh, maybe that will happen. And that's why Halloween works so well for me. There's nothing apart from the Michael Myers character being so indestructible, but the actual situations where the characters didn't know what was going on and were going about their daily business and not making crazy decisions, that really felt more realistic. So for some of these that move into witchcraft or the occult or fully constructed supernatural mythology, the more recent ones in particular, and with my age now, they're really not hitting as hard as they do. Still entertaining and really watchable, but that's what happened here for me. So look, overall, it's a really well-made film. The direction's strong and innovative and confident, and the performances were good, especially from Julia Garner and Josh Brolin. But they're people I always rally behind, and I'm interested to see them. There's definitely some moments that land effectively, but I think my reaction to it probably says more about my relationship with horror, where I'm at in life, and I'm obviously not the target audience for this. But I think it's good to try and see what's out there, try and stay relevant, not always just go back to the past with these film appreciation things. So once again, I think I found myself appreciating the craft more than actually feeling the fear. And that's probably where the divide sits for me at this point in my life. So anyway, there you go. I checked out Weapons. It's a good watch. It's on HBO Max at the moment. So yeah, see what you think. As always, thanks for joining in. See you next time.